Also, one last thing here.
It's cold, Basil. It's cold. Antarctica, go first. It's a snowstorm. Antarctica.
Ice scientists are penguins.
Antarctica, they're opening the abyss.
This is Nature World News. The headline: for the first time, nanoplastic particles have contaminated decades-old polar ice.
Whoa.
More contamination of Antarctica.
Yes.
It's been a theme. There's a theme.
The shimmer. The shimmer is growing.
It says here, members of the Ice Memory Project extract an ice core piece out of a drill machine on August 25th, 2016, in their camp at the Col du Dorme Glacier as part of the Ice Memory Project near the Mont Blanc Peak in Chamonix, eastern France. 2 ice cores of more than 120 meters were extracted before being preserved in Antarctica as part of an operation to save the memory, quote-unquote, of ice threatened by global warming. A team of scientists studying the ice cores from Greenland and Antarctica have identified some types of nanoplastic particles, including particles from tires in decades-old polar ice. As per the international team, sea ice cores in the polar regions are contaminated with more nanoparticle pollution than thought. You know, I feel like this is setting up for a really, really interesting nanoscan of the entire world as part of the climate change initiative.
So what is the message here? That pollution has been in Antarctica for decades?
We are horrible people. We pollute. Even the purest of ice is contaminated with nanoparticles of plastic.
Mm-hmm.
We're awful. We're awful humans. We must scan not just this important piece of ice for ice memory, but eventually we need to scan the whole world. You know, just to make sure.
Yeah.
You guys
well,
aren't.
That is kind of a funny angle with the Antarctica thing. That Antarctica is being polluted. There's not like a whole lot of stuff to pollute down there. I mean, I guess we're learning more and more that there's a lot of animals in Antarctica. Actually, I guess penguins are down there, and ice fish.
It's just weird how they freak out when there's some kind of contamination or like some kind of foreign thing, because they act like the region has never been explored by anyone ever.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it's like the first time there's like a genetic molecular thing that we have to preserve here, this delicate balance.
Right.
And
it feels like it's a very effective messaging because it's so removed.
Yeah.
You know, it's that thing too, where if we can tell you that something is going wrong, but it's so far away that you couldn't necessarily understand the effects, then you're just sort of open to whatever we tell you.
And that's why I think all Antarctica news is interesting and has been interesting, especially the last, I don't know, few months. Seems like they've been ramping up something. There's a high strangeness from Antarctica, or has been for a long time. So I'm not saying that the conversations haven't taken place, but
talking about this nanoplastics issue, I mean, this nanoplastics issue is a big issue. This isn't even necessarily like a global warming thing. This is little pieces of plastic from our trash and stuff gets broken down in the ocean into tiny little pieces. Fish eat it, shrimp eat it, and then whatever, everything eats it. And the plastic, you know, has all the weird hormonal effects that it does.
Yeah, the rise in certain gender identity issues and things.
There's a lot of talk
nature.
about that. Yeah, the estrogen creating hormonal issues and microplastics in the food chain, you know, and it could start from, you know, the little sea life and work its way all the way to human beings. So the microplastics thing is really a problem. And it seems like in this article, they're just saying like, yes, it is a much bigger problem than we possibly could have imagined, because this plastic is not just, you know, in our fish, but it's in our ice. And there's nothing we can do about it. Things are supposed to be
pure.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I mean, that is, again, the sort of messaging to this, the whether it's subtle or whatever. We don't, we can say it is or it isn't. But Antarctica is sort of portrayed at this pure place,
Right.
untouched
Yeah,
by man.
it's so strange how they
where-
keep. Yeah, it's like this. Yeah,
And even the ice,
preserved.
like within the ice is a time capsule, perfectly preserved history of the Earth and things like that. It's got this very pure PR to it. And so to come out and say, oh, the nanoparticles, the nanoplastics are now in the purest place on Earth, really does add a bit of urgency to the nanoplastics issue.
Yeah, but also, again, I think the ultimate sort of goal of and part of, I think, prophetically, biblically, and the full spectrum dominance thing is monitoring every single particle in the universe. Now, that's kind of the idea of the
It's
technological
definitely
singularity and all this kind of stuff.
The
is predicated-
technocratic dream.
Yeah.
For full data dominance.
Right. It's predicated on monitoring and then perhaps manipulating every single particle that exists in the world and having some kind of purposeful computing mechanism to control it or whatever. But, that's all very nebulous in terms of, what they are, where they're at currently. The nanoplastics topic in the context of climate change brings that urgency, but also allows for surveillance of nanoparticles. What kind
justification?
of justification for
Yeah,
more
justification
nano-level
for
surveillance of
technocratic
everywhere,
technocratic panopticon in the name of ecology.
I mean,
And-
I wouldn't be surprised if we started seeing places, I don't know, buildings, rooms, maybe, where it's that highly controlled, highly monitored, highly surveilled to the particle level type of thing, where you can have nanobots in there and you'll know right away because, the environment. And as nanotechnology progresses, that kind of stuff will be capable. But I'm sorry, go on.
Yeah. So I mean, that's definitely the technocratic dream. But we don't want to miss the most important thing, which is when we're talking about the deleterious hormonal effects of these microplastics on living beings. We have no idea what the ramifications will be of these Antarctican nanoplastics on the Nephilim penguins. I mean, this could become a huge problem. As we all know, the Nephilim penguins are generally considered to be some sort of masculine form. We're not going to quite call them male, but they take some sort of masculine form. And if these Nephilim penguins start feminizing through the hormonal problems with the nanoplastics, we don't know what kind of effect this will happen on the Great Penguin Wars. This is just something that I'm totally out of my depth to be able to predict the worldwide ramifications of. This could possibly turn the tide on the Nazi Antarctic base / Nephilim penguin conflicts that have been raging for decades.
Yeah.
And if this turns the tide, we might have some bigger problems.
Well, it's going to fork the population of the Nephilim penguins. There will be some who learn to embrace the powers of the nanoplastics and enhance themselves and the world around them. And then there will be those who cannot keep up. And they will be part of the extermination. And that will be the Great War. But also the ones who do control will take those dead penguins and resurrect them as mummies. And that's where the mummy penguins come from.
Yeah, well, and much like Jurassic Park, where the problem was that they claimed to make all female dinosaurs, but the amphibious DNA allowed them to, change genders in order to, find a way, as we're told.
Science is truth.
We all know that the Nephilim penguins are unable to breed in a traditional sort of terrestrial manner, But if again, classically masculine Nephilim penguins are able to shift a portion of their species, the reproductive rates could really get out of control.
Dater.
Good data.
And that's just science, folks.
Nephilim update. Nephilim update. Nephilim update.
Somehow this Antarctica story has turned into a Nephilim update, but it's
Don't
still
they
in
all?
Antarctica.
Don't they all though?
New discovery. Antarctica.
Antarctica, climate crisis. Penguins.
Wow. New listeners to the show. I have a hard time believing that new listeners make it through the whole show very often. Maybe they do, in which case I'm very proud of them. But if they missed some previous Antarctica updates, there's a lot of catching up to do.
A lot of dots not connecting.
Yeah, it's a very special community that makes it all the way to the end of the episodes like this. And we don't want new listeners to feel alienated. So someday we'll put together a catalog. You know what? Because we're working on the Canary Cry Clips channel, might have a special playlist of all the Antarctica. Okay, this is a great resource, folks.